Hi there. Just wanted to say something about gratitude today because I am feeling overwhelmed by the feeling of appreciating things that we just take for granted every day. Because here on the East Coast, we've just experienced a second big snowstorm in a row, and I kept my power through the first one, but this last one I just lost power yesterday. And what it did was lots of things. And one of those was like, how do I get out of here? Escape, someone save me. It was like an immediate, gut response, like, ah. And then just like, it's okay. It's just a storm. And what I did is I just started preparing, as I had been prepared anyway for last week's storm. Just little by little, gathering wood for my fireplace and lantern oil for my lantern, and hot water and carafes and things like that that would keep the basics there for me. And so what I did yesterday is when the power went out, it went out in the afternoon. So I had hours as I watched the darkness approaching to prepare more quickly. So minute by minute, it was kind of interesting to really, and what it did, it brought me into a sense of connection with nature. We're so outside of that normally, speaking about just generally speaking, we're so closed in our own worlds and with all of our electronics and all of our other ways to connect to the world without connecting to nature, so that it really got me tuned in by necessity to time and how it was passing in darkness as it started to fall. So I've been collecting wood over the past whenever I find it on the sides of the roads, people selling it for a little stack here and there. So I've been collecting it over time, and in my own yard, just go around and collect it and dry it. So yesterday I brought in a lot of wood. I had prepared some from the outside, brought it into my little porch. So yesterday I brought it in from my porch, brought it around my fireplace, which I had already set it all up. So all I needed to do was put a match to it. It would be ready to go. I wouldn't have to build it. And I just can't tell you how magical that felt. And it was magical because it just brought me into such a really precious and basic way to be. So lighting my lanterns and then having the fire and then realizing, oh my gosh, I need something warm to eat. I hadn't eaten anything since that morning. And having a pot being given to me, an old iron pot that a friend had given me. And I have in my fireplace this swinging arm. It's a cooking pot, swinging arm that comes in and out of my fire. That I didn't even notice when I first moved in. I just saw the fireplace. I was thrilled. And then I went, wow, you really put a pot here? You could really cook here if you really needed to. So I really needed to yesterday. And how special it felt to be, number one, alone. And, and I thought of that, like, oh, I could have other people over, but, people couldn't even get out. There was 13 inches of snow where I am, a little less in other places around me, but it didn't even feel like I wanted that. I just really was appreciating, like, it's time to really hunker down and to see what I can make of my life with the least amount of outside influences, I guess, or things that I normally depend on, I couldn't depend on my car. I couldn't depend, the plow hadn't come through, and that's a lot of snow to move, big, heavy, wet snow. So it wasn't like I was going to be shoveling myself out of this super long driveway. Anyway, so I felt trapped, and yet at the same time, not trapped like I was a victim, but what do I do with this? What do I do with this? How do I make this work? So I'm just happy to now report that and there are fallen limbs, and there's huge trees where I live, and all along the property, and big tall pine trees, and very heavy with the snow. So limbs were dropping and falling, and I don't mean branches, I mean limbs from the trees were dropping. So I had to face that fear a bit, and not a bit, I'd face that fear. I kept my phone with me, and I was researching ahead of time, like, okay, where's the safest place in the house to really be? So I just love the idea of facing something that feels very fearful, and or even a little fearful, and getting to the other side of that. And there's no way through it but through it. It's like life. There's no way through it but through it. There aren't any shortcuts we can take. We just have to do what we have to do. So I then proceeded to carry my wood in, and realizing, wow, I have to get it in before it's dark because I can't even see what I'm doing, and I can't hold a flashlight and carry wood at the same time, or carry a lantern. So it all became very, everything was very interconnected. Everything that I did felt really based on a time sequence and in nature, unlike my normal everyday behavior. So it was lovely. I sat with this beautiful roaring fire. I had a pot and warmed up food over the fire, and having to learn what that looks like. And because it's so dark and the light is only coming from the fire below the pot, you can't see what's in the pot. So it's good to cook during the daytime. Little things you learn. So I'm trying to hold a flashlight and a spoon, and I have my big gloves on so my hands don't get burned. It was funny. It was funny, and it was enjoyable, and it was nice. It was nice, and there was nothing to make the time any different than what it was. It didn't have anything to do with the clock. It just was the fire and the warmth, and I have a battery operated radio. So these small things, with extra batteries. So these small things, and they say that, of course, that's always supposed to be part of your emergency kit is a radio with batteries, extra batteries, and flashlights and things like that. So I made use of everything that I thought I might need. I made use of everything, and it wasn't that long. Some people have been out for days, and that's a lot. So when I was sitting there, I was just thoroughly enmeshed and feeling very held at the same time, enmeshed and held in the arms of spirit, in the arms of nature. That I could stay warm, I could have light, I could have heat, I could have food, and all it took was wood and flame and protection, of course, shelter. And then that was it. And I cleaned up by lantern light, so that was really pretty. It's a really beautiful colored light too when you light by a lantern. So it was just really precious and sweet. And I could have easily, once the plow came, I could have easily left and gone elsewhere to seek shelter, and be welcomed. And yet I chose not to do that purposely, on purpose. And anyway, so when I woke up this morning with power restored, what it did is it made me feel so appreciative of all these simple things that we just take so much for granted. I'll speak for myself. Just turning on water and getting hot water, and we have these benefits. At least, most of us have these simple things in life that a lot of people on this planet do not have. And just to be able to have light, turn on a switch and get light, something we don't think about, And so I was filled with gratitude, and I knew that I needed to do what I did yesterday, even though I had options to do otherwise. But I felt like I was running away from something that was a little scary, a little like, oh, how do I do this, So I just wanted to share that story because it did so much for me in renewing or reviving in some way a strength that I already knew I had, and it connecting me back into something that's a part of who I am, and that is just being able to kind of rough it, and always liked camping and seeing how to survive out in the woods. It was always fun and an adventure. And it took me into a very real and tender place, but strong place. So it's good to test our strength, isn't it? It's good to test our strength. So that's it. And what it did, the gifts that it brought me, because I overcame some of the initial, let me out of here, quick, I got to get out, was to make me feel so appreciative of my life and the things in my life and the people in my life and the simple yet very important things that we take for granted. So, and here are my new glasses. How about that? So my son helped me pick these out, and so I'm having fun. I'm having fun with a different look and a lot of comfort without contact lenses in. Anyway, I'm getting chilly here sitting in my car, so I'm going to sign off, but just wanted to share some of those thoughts with you, and hope everyone's doing well.